The ancient floorboards of the barn creaked under my feet as I made my way to Grandpa Joe's old office, flashlight beam cutting through decades of dust. It was probably my last chance to be here, considering my parents had just signed away our family's legacy for a fraction of its worth. Tomorrow, Anderson Development would take possession of the 100 acres that had been in our family for 4 generations. My name is Emily Mitchell, and this is the story of how I uncovered the truth that my grandfather took to his grave. A truth that would change everything. "Just sign here, Emily," Dad had said earlier that day, pushing the witness line of the sale contract toward me. "Let's get this over with." I'd stared at the number on the paper, $50,000. 100 acres of prime Nebraska farmland sold for less than the price of a luxury car. Even in today's tough agricultural market, it felt wrong. "This can't be the best offer," I'd protested. "The land alone is worthless," Mom cut in, her voice sharp with familiar disappointment. "Just like that agriculture degree you insisted on getting instead of going into real estate like we wanted." The Anderson Development representative, a sleek woman named Karen, had smiled thinly. "The soil tests showed poor quality. Really, we're being generous considering the state of the property." But I knew better. I'd spent the last 4 years studying advanced agricultural science at the University of Nebraska. My soil samples had shown something very different. Rich, fertile earth perfect for organic farming. Something wasn't adding up. Now, standing in Grandpa Joe's dusty office, I felt the weight of time pressing down on me. The barn had been his sanctuary, the place where he'd retreat after long days in the fields. He'd died 2 years ago, leaving the farm to my parents, who'd never shared his passion for the land. The office looked exactly as he'd left it. Decades of ledgers lined the shelves, his old desk calendar still showing October 2023, the day he passed. But I wasn't here for memories. I was looking for answers. 3 days ago, I found a letter hidden in one of his old agricultural journals. The pages had been stuck together, preserving his neat handwriting. "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. I always meant to tell you the truth about the South Field, but time got away from me. Check the ledger marked 1985. The real one, behind the loose board under my desk. You'll understand why this land can never leave our family. Love, Grandpa Joe." My hands trembled as I knelt behind his desk, fingers searching for the loose board he'd mentioned. There, a slight give in the wood. I pried it up carefully, reaching into the dark space beneath. My fingers touched leather. The ledger I pulled out was different from the others, bound in worn brown leather, its pages yellow with age. Inside, Grandpa's familiar handwriting filled page after page with details I'd never seen in the official farm records. April 15, 1985 made contact with Dr. Harrison from the university. Tests confirm initial findings. South Field contains deposits unlike anything they've seen. Must keep this quiet. Too many greedy eyes watching. Will continue regular farming as cover. My heart raced as I kept reading. The entries painted an incredible picture. One that explained why Anderson Development was in such a hurry to close the deal, why they pressured my parents to sell quickly and quietly. A crash outside made me jump. Voices carried through the night air, unfamiliar, urgent. "Check the barn again. We need to be sure nothing was left behind." I quickly photographed the crucial pages with my phone, tucked the ledger into my jacket, and killed my flashlight. Heavy footsteps approached the barn door. Through a gap in the weathered boards, I saw 3 men I didn't recognize, carrying professional-grade scanning equipment. They weren't waiting until tomorrow to start their survey. I pressed myself into the shadows as they entered the barn. Their conversation drifted up to my hiding spot. "Anderson wants this wrapped up tonight. No traces. The old man left records. That's what we're here to find. The family doesn't know anything. The daughter's the only one who might cause problems. But they've handled her." Handled me? My blood ran cold as I remembered the string of rejections from agricultural companies over the past year, positions I was more than qualified for. Had Anderson Development really gone that far to ensure I wouldn't be a threat? I needed to get out of there, but more importantly, I needed proof. Real proof that would stand up to scrutiny. The ledger was a start, but Grandpa would have kept more detailed records. He was too thorough not to. The men were systematically searching the barn's ground floor. Soon they'd make their way up to the office. I had minutes at most. My eyes darted around the office, seeing it with new understanding. There, behind his ancient computer monitor, a small safe I'd never paid attention to before. The combination would be, I smiled despite my fear. Grandpa had always used the same number sequence for everything. My birthday. The safe clicked open softly. Inside was a USB drive, several manila envelopes marked with dates, and a hand-drawn map of the property with detailed annotations. I grabbed everything, securing them inside my jacket with a ledger. The voices were closer now. I could hear them climbing the stairs. I had two choices: try to sneak past them or... My eyes fell on the old grain chute, a wooden shaft that led from the upper floor to the ground level, once used to move grain but long since abandoned. It would be a tight fit, but I'd used it as a slide countless times as a kid, much to Grandpa's amusement. The office door began to open. I dove for the chute, sliding into the dusty darkness just as flashlight beams swept the office. The wooden shaft carried me down at a steep angle, my jacket protecting me from the worst of the splinters. I hit the ground floor hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Shouts erupted above me as they discovered the open safe. I didn't wait to hear more. Running from the barn into the night, I clutched my jacket tight around the precious documents. The south field stretched out before me, looking so ordinary in the moonlight, but I knew better now. I made it to my old truck, parked behind the house, and drove away as casually as I could manage. In my rearview mirror, I saw the men emerge from the barn, their flashlights sweeping the property. One spoke urgently into a phone. My apartment in town was only 15 minutes away, but I didn't dare go there. They would look for me there first. Instead, I drove to the only person I could trust with this, Dr. Sarah Martinez, my graduate advisor at the university. The modern agricultural science building was dark at this hour, but I knew she'd still be in her lab. She always worked late, especially during harvest season. Emily? She looked up in surprise as I burst into the lab, still dusty from the grain chute. What on earth? I need your help, I said, laying out the ledger and documents on her lab table. And I need you to verify something for me, something about the south field. As I explained everything, the suspicious sale, Grandpa's letter, the men at the barn, her eyes grew wider. But when I showed her Grandpa's soil analysis from 1985, she sat down hard in her chair. Oh my God, she whispered. Emily, do you understand what this is? I nodded grimly. I think I do. And I think Anderson Development knows too. The question is, how do we prove it before they take possession tomorrow? Dr. Martinez was already pulling up soil sample data on her computer, tests we'd run just months ago as part of my thesis work, comparing them with Grandpa's meticulous records. Your grandfather, she said, fingers flying over the keyboard, was a brilliant man. He didn't just find this by accident. Look at his testing methodology. He knew exactly what he was looking for. The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture that took my breath away. But we needed more than just old records and soil samples. We needed irrefutable proof. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Where are you? Karen from Anderson wants to do a final walkthrough tonight. Says it's urgent. I bet she did. How fast can you analyze a new soil sample? I asked Dr. Martinez. She glanced at her equipment. With the new spectrometer, 20 minutes. But Emily, you can't go back there. If what you've told me about those men is true. I have to, I cut in. We need fresh samples from specific locations. Grandpa's map shows exactly where to look. I pulled out the hand-drawn map, its margins filled with precise coordinates. And we need them tonight, before Anderson Development can stop us. Dr. Martinez studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'm coming with you. And she added, pulling out her phone, I'm calling someone else too. We're going to need legal representation before this is over. As she made her call, I studied the map again, tracing the careful notes my grandfather had made. All these years, he'd been protecting something extraordinary, waiting for the right moment, waiting for me to be ready. I understand now, Grandpa, I whispered, and I won't let you down. The night air was crisp as Dr. Martinez and I pulled up to the farm, her university-issued SUV loaded with sampling equipment. John Chen, the environmental lawyer she called, followed in his own car, parking discreetly behind the old equipment shed. According to your grandfather's map, Dr. Martinez whispered as we gathered at the edge of the south field, the primary testing sites should be about 50 yards in. I nodded, unfolding the map under the beam of a red light that wouldn't carry far. There's a specific pattern to follow. Grandpa wasn't just taking random samples. Your grandfather, John said quietly, checking something on his tablet, filed for a specialized mineral rights patent in 1985. It was denied under unusual circumstances, but the initial filing still exists in federal records. That's legally significant. The south field looked different now, moonlight casting strange shadows across its surface. Somewhere in the distance, I heard vehicles moving along the access road. Anderson Development's people were still here searching. We need to hurry, I said, leading them to the first sampling site. Once we have proof, what's our next step? John's answer was interrupted by the sound of approaching engines. Headlights swept the field's edge. Down, Dr. Martinez hissed, pulling us behind an old tractor. Emily, are there any other ways to access the sampling sites? I thought quickly, remembering countless childhood days spent exploring every inch of the farm. The irrigation tunnels. Grandpa installed an underground system in the 90s. The maintenance access points would put us right where we need to be. The nearest access point was behind the barn, hidden by years of overgrown grass. As vehicles patrolled the field above, we slipped underground into the concrete tunnels, our way lit by foam screens. Your grandfather's sample sites, Dr. Martinez said, studying the map, they form a pattern. Almost like a grid, I finished. He was mapping something big. The tunnels led us to precisely where we needed to be. While Dr. Martinez took samples using the university's advanced equipment, John documented everything with his camera, establishing a clear chain of evidence. Emily, Dr. Martinez called softly from where she was examining soil composition under a portable microscope. This is unprecedented. The mineral composition, the rare earth elements, your grandfather found something extraordinary. A voice echoed down the tunnel from the access point we used. Check the irrigation system. They might have gone underground. How many more samples do you need? I asked urgently. 2 more sites should give us enough to confirm the pattern, she replied, already packing up her equipment. We moved quickly through the tunnels, taking samples at the final locations marked on Grandpa's map. Each one confirmed what he'd discovered nearly 40 years ago, something that could change everything. Just as Dr. Martinez sealed the last sample container, lights appeared at both ends of the tunnel. Well, a familiar voice echoed. Karen from Anderson Development stepped into view, flanked by security guards. Emily, you're trespassing on private property. The sale doesn't close until tomorrow. I countered, stepping in front of Dr. Martinez to give her time to secure the samples. We're still the legal owners. About that, Karen's smile was cold. Your parents signed updated papers tonight, transferring ownership immediately. They're being very well compensated for their cooperation. My heart sank. Of course they had. They'd never understood what they were giving away. Miss Mitchell. John Chen stepped forward, his lawyer's voice carrying authority even in the dim tunnel. Is a legal heir to this property. The mineral rights were specifically excluded from any sale by patent application in 1985. Karen's smile faltered slightly. That application was denied. Under suspicious circumstances that we're very interested in reviewing, John replied. Particularly given the involvement of Anderson Development's parent company in similar cases during that period. A tense silence filled the tunnel. I could see Karen calculating, reassessing. Dr. Martinez, I said clearly, what exactly did we find here tonight? My former advisor straightened, her academic authority evident in every word. The largest concentrated deposit of rare earth elements ever discovered in North America, specifically neodymium, dysprosium, and terbium, crucial components for advanced technology manufacturing. Based on these samples, the deposit appears to extend throughout the entire South Field, which Anderson Development knew when they pressured my parents to sell for practically nothing, when they blocked my career opportunities to keep me from discovering the truth, when they buried Grandpa's original mineral rights application. Worth billions, I added, watching Karen's face. Which Anderson Development knew when they pressured my parents to sell for practically nothing, when they blocked my career opportunities to keep me from discovering the truth, when they buried Grandpa's original mineral rights application. You can't prove any of that, Karen snapped, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. Actually, John held up his tablet. We can. I've just received confirmation of federal records showing Anderson's involvement in suppressing similar mineral rights claims in 3 other states during the 1980s. A pattern of corporate fraud that would interest both the FBI and the Securities Exchange Commission. Not to mention, Dr. Martinez added, the university's public interest in groundbreaking geological discoveries. Discoveries that are already being uploaded to our secure servers, along with full documentation of tonight's events. I saw the moment Karen realized they'd lost. Her careful corporate mask cracked, showing the desperation beneath. Your parents already signed. She tried one last time. The deal is done. A deal based on fraudulent information, John countered. Signed without disclosure of vital facts about the property's value. No court in the country would uphold it. Light suddenly flooded the tunnel from above. More vehicles had arrived. But these were different. Through the access shaft, I glimpsed federal agents wearing FBI windbreakers. That would be the task force on corporate mineral rights fraud, John said calmly. I took the liberty of alerting them when I found the connection to Anderson's previous cases. The next few hours passed in a blur of federal agents, evidence collection, and formal statements. By dawn, Anderson Development's people were gone, replaced by a swarm of FBI investigators and university geological teams. My parents arrived just as the sun was rising, their faces pale with shock. Emily, Mom's voice shook. What's happening? They said something about fraud. Come with me, I said quietly, leading them to Grandpa's office in the barn. It looked different in the morning light, federal evidence tags marking where I'd found the ledger and safe. I showed them everything, Grandpa's records, the mineral survey, the truth about what lay beneath our family's land. With each revelation, they seemed to shrink, understanding finally the magnitude of what they'd almost given away. Your grandfather tried to tell me once, Dad said finally, his voice rough with emotion. Just before he died. I thought he was just being sentimental about the farm. He spent decades protecting this discovery, I explained, waiting until the right time, when it could be developed responsibly. He left all the evidence for me to find because he knew I'd understand its true value. And now, Mom asked quietly. I shared the preliminary plan John had helped develop. We'll partner with the university to extract the minerals sustainably, using new technologies that protect the topsoil. The farm stays in our family, but the mineral rights will fund research into sustainable agriculture and rural development. Grandpa's legacy will help preserve other family farms, not destroy them. Tears filled Mom's eyes. We were so wrong, she whispered. About everything. The aftermath transformed more than just our family. Anderson Development's attempted fraud made national news, exposing similar cases across the country. The discovery of rare earth elements in Nebraska reshaping the global supply chain. The farm flourished under the new plan. We still grow crops on most of the land, now using advanced sustainable methods developed by university researchers. The mineral extraction proceeds carefully, respectfully, preserving the soil that fed our family for generations. I often visit Grandpa's office, now restored to its former glory. His ledgers line the shelves, their pages holding not just financial records, but the story of a man who saw beyond the surface, who understood that true value isn't always visible to those too busy looking for quick profits. A year after the discovery, we established the Mitchell Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, helping other farming families protect and develop their land responsibly. Dr. Martinez leads his research division, while I split my time between managing the farm and teaching at the university's agricultural school. My parents have changed too. Dad's taken a genuine interest in sustainable farming techniques, while Mom helps coordinate the foundation's community outreach programs. They're learning finally that the land holds more value than just its sale price. Last week, I found something else in Grandpa's office, a letter dated just days before his death, addressed to my future students. The land always tells a story if you know how to listen. It holds secrets, possibilities, and responsibilities. To be a farmer isn't just to work the soil, but to be its guardian, understanding that what we preserve today shapes all our tomorrows. I sat in his old chair, touching the worn leather of his ledger, and smiled. The south field stretched out beyond the window, green and alive, still yielding its treasures, both above and below the soil. Sometimes I think I see him out there, checking the crops in the early morning mist. His quiet wisdom still guides us, reminding me that the greatest discoveries often come not from looking for quick profits, but from patiently nurturing what we've been given. understanding its true worth, and protecting it for future generations. The farm will stay in our family now, its future secure. But more than that, it's become a model for how rural communities can thrive in the modern world without sacrificing their agricultural heritage. Other farmers visit regularly, learning about sustainable mineral extraction and advanced farming techniques. Last month, I mentored a young agriculture student who reminded me of myself. She had the same passion for the land, the same drive to understand its deeper mysteries. The soil tells stories, I told her, echoing Grandpa's words. Our job is to listen, learn, and protect those stories for the future. Standing in a south field now, watching the sunset paint the crops in gold, I feel Grandpa's presence strongly. He knew all those years ago that this land held more than just minerals. It held hope for a future where farming and progress could coexist, where rural communities could thrive without selling their souls to corporations. You were right, Grandpa, I whispered to the evening breeze. About everything. And somewhere, in the rustle of the corn and the rich darkness of the soil, I know he's smiling.